And he came to live right next door. And Mark and he were interested in consciousness. And there was a man who was advertising that he was going to give a mindfulness Vipassana study or have a sitting group. So the three of us started sitting with attention on the breath with Vipassana. And then Bhante left and eventually went to Asia to become a monk. And he was in Asia about 14, 15 years, I think. And then he came back to San Diego. That's where we were. So in San Diego, then in 1998, he came back with this wonderful gift of TWIM. And Mark and I sponsored his first retreat in 1998. And we did several retreats, managing retreats for Bhante until 2013. Bhante started this center, I believe, in 2005 or 6, or was it later than that? 2003. And we were on the ground floor with him on starting the retreat. We really supported the idea of him having a center where he could teach his style of meditation, which we thought was so very, very impactful. It was effective. It was a happy meditation. And so then David, as he said, came back here 15 years ago, and we have continued to support the center and continue to practice TWIM. And unfortunately, then Bhante passed away 2 years ago. And we're we're endeavoring to continue offering his gift to the world. So that's kind of my short summary of my journey. And Mark, you want to say a few words?
Yeah. Well, welcome everyone. I have been engaged in this practice for a long time, and I've done over 30 retreats. And my normal daily practice is sitting for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And I think the skills that I want to share with you are doing the practice, because that's how TWIM works. And it's simple, it's pleasant, it's an extraordinary style of meditation that really is very effective, and it feels good. And Bhante would call it the greatest show in town. So we're going to be learning, for some of you for the first time, this technique for working with the tightness and tension in the mind, which he called the 6 R's. And this was a relaxation and tranquility practice. And Antra and I were at the first retreat that he started to explore that. And we were both kind of guinea pigs for how he kind of fine-tuned that. And we have a write-up that I provided in this handout we're going to give to you. And so it is a wonderful tool to work with tightness and tension in the mind. And you're going to be able to use it throughout your day, throughout the practice. And as you're starting with the mind moving around a lot, you're going to be using it quite often, and that's okay. Because if you use it even 25 times in a sitting, it's a good sitting. So it's the kind of thing that, when you see the mind start to move and it's tight, you apply that technique and relax and then proceed. And so you're going to be learning with this TWIM mental skills for working with the state of mind that you're in. We're not going to work with a model, but we're going to work with skills on how to address what's happening in the present moment. And if the mind is not working or it's out of balance, then we're going to have some things that you will know what to select and what to employ and what to work with to bring that balance back in. So Antra was just talking about these chairs, that finding one that's comfortable, which is important, because what's going to happen for you as you're sitting is going to get longer and longer and longer. And it'll do so naturally, and you're going to be in charge of doing that. We don't ring bells to stop the sitting. We kind of, everyone might start together at the same time, but as the day progresses, you'll be working with your own practice, and it'll be something that you'll be able to see when it's appropriate to go out and then start doing the walking meditation and then coming back and resuming the sitting and so forth. So you'll be working with yourselves and doing it in a way that we are sharing and explaining, but it's an empowerment. So the awareness is important, the mindfulness, the concentration, the collected mind, as well as the tranquilizing the mind when it gets tight or there's tension. So I'm going to be just helping during the interviews, and I'm also going to be available if any of you have any questions about your practice and something is come up and you need you have something you want to address, because I prefer to help you maybe resolve quickly a difficulty or something that you're facing, so you don't have to wait till your next interview in the next afternoon or something like that. So we're working on a process that is very rewarding and very successful. And the amazing thing about TWIM is the experiences that people have that are real for them, and we do it in such a short period of time. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Maybe you can help hand out some of these to the meditators, not to David. And I have a few handouts, so I'm giving everybody a folder. And we'll look at some of the things that are in the folder today.
Thank you.
I think Mark has a few others over there. Okay. Did everybody get one then? Everybody got one? Yeah, okay. All right. Mark touched on some of the things that I'm also going to emphasize about TWIM, and this is our first night together, and I know everybody's been traveling and people might be a little bit tired, and I'll be throwing a few terms at you that you might not really completely understand, but try to just relax and listen. And one of the things about the Buddha's teaching is that we listen to the suttas and we make comments about the teaching, and every time that you hear that sutta, or every time that you do a retreat, you say, oh, now I understand. And then your practice gets deeper, and next time you come around, you say, oh, now I really understand. And this goes on the whole lifetime, because his teaching is so deep. There are so many facets to his teaching that the understandings are just deepening and deepening, and you're understanding it at a deeper level. So if I say things that you have never heard or you don't understand, just realize that we'll be going over the instructions several times and over again, and you will, over time, you'll get it. Okay? So, what I do want to say is that Bhante Vimalaramsi gave a gift to the world. The Tranquil Wisdom Insight Meditation is his understanding of the Pali Suttas that were the first written transcriptions of the Buddhist teaching. Prior to the suttas being written down in Pali, the monks had a oral tradition, and they passed down the knowledge from one generation to the next orally. So it was Bhante's understanding of the suttas, as well as his long years of meditative practice that he did in Asia, as well as in the United States. And this is, as Mark said, a happy meditation. It's a meditation that you really want to do, because it gives you pleasure, it keeps you interested, it sometimes can get a little bit tedious or boring, but not very often, because if you really put the effort in, you discover new things about yourself, you discover new things about your mind, and your discoveries build on each other when you do the TWIM practice. One of the things that I found with Vipassana was that I was building tools. I developed tools, but it didn't compound into anything. It didn't build one thing building on another, building on another, building on another, leading towards personality development, happiness, and relief of suffering. So by saying that it's a complete meditation practice, what do I mean by that? Well, when we do our daily practice, the Buddha had the Four Noble Truths. That was the Four Noble Truths that he gave to the world. And what he said was that there is suffering in the world, and that the cause of suffering is craving, which Bhante elucidated as being tightness and tension in the mind and in the body. And if you reflect on some experiences in your life where you really wanted something very, very intensely, it was uncomfortable. There was a tension. You really were pushing yourself. So so that is one aspect of craving that's very, you can really relate to. But there's many levels of craving, many levels of tension and tightness. And as we go through our week, you will see those levels for yourself. You will see what really is it? What is it, the tension and the tightness? So that's the second noble truth, that there is a cause for suffering, which is craving. The third noble truth is that there's a relief of suffering. So the relief of suffering comes from releasing that tension. And you will experience during the retreat a release of tensions and some relief too. And it's a wonderful experience. And one of the things about experiencing these things for yourself, you can't take them away anymore. They're not concepts. They're reality because you have experienced it for yourself. So that's the third noble truth. And the fourth noble truth is that there is an eightfold path that leads to the cessation of suffering. So when we do our daily sits, we are actually doing the whole eightfold path. So we are going on that path to the relief of suffering, to the relief of that uncomfortable craving. And the eightfold path, right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood. So in the morning, when we take our precepts, we do the part of right view, in that we read some verses from the Dhammapada that gives a right view according to the Buddhist teaching. And then we take the precepts for our for virtue, for right speech and right action, right intention, right livelihood. Right now we're just in a meditation retreat, so it's a wonderful livelihood. Then the last three parts of the Eightfold Path are right mindfulness, right effort, and right collectedness. And that's the meditative part of the practice. So we'll be doing the meditative part all day long of right mindfulness, right effort, and right collectedness. And that is the brilliance and the beauty of TWIM, is that you start practicing TWIM and you start practicing the Eightfold Path. So why should we follow the Eightfold Path? Well, it leads to liberation from suffering and it leads to nibbana. And that is what the Buddha was teaching, the extinguishing of craving and suffering. So the progress is in stages, as I said before. You start as a beginner, and you have certain insights, a certain practice, and then you continue on the path, and you become a journeyman, a journeywoman. Then you become more expert at what you're doing. You get more insights. You get more confidence in your practice. So it goes in stages. And the progress is the 8 jhanas that we're going to experience here. We're starting with the first jhana. It goes into 8 jhanas, which are levels of insight and understanding. Then the other levels are 4 attainments that are also mentioned in the suttas. And the 4 attainments are stages of mental purification and of behavioral purification. So why should we purify the mind? Because it leads to happiness. I think some of the people that have already done some TWIM maybe can attest to that you have experienced some levels of happiness that you had not experienced before. And that happiness occurs in this very lifetime. And it can grow as you continue on the path and as you continue doing TWIM. So now I do want to go into the three meditative folds of the Eightfold Path, which is what we're going to instruct you to do and what you will be doing the rest of the meditation retreat. And these instructions, this is just the first go around. We'll do a guided meditation tomorrow morning after we take the precepts, and then we will show a video of Bhante Vimalaramsi, so you get a flavor of who he was, and he will be giving the instructions in his way that's also tomorrow morning. So so the meditation is a process of collecting the mind's attention on an object. Meditation is always on an object. There is an object of meditation. So in the TWIM practice, we have chosen the Brahma Viharas, the sublime abodes, as the objects of the meditation. And they are wholesome and pleasant states of mind and bodily feelings. So we'll start out with loving kindness, Metta. Metta will be our object of meditation. We will work on collecting the mind for longer and longer periods of time on the feeling of metta. Metta, loving kindness, is a mental state of goodwill, and it's a physical feeling state of a pleasant, loving feeling in the heart. So I want to take a little time now to talk about how to bring up that pleasant, loving feeling in the heart. Some people remember a life experience where they really felt loved, or they really loved someone. Maybe the smile on the other person's face. For some people, if you've been around babies, the smile of a 3-month-old baby is almost a Buddhist smile. And it really opens your heart. So some people remember holding a baby or being around a baby and how that opened their hearts. Some people have pets, and the pets, I don't know if one of the things about dogs is they have those puppy eyes and they look at you with this loving gaze and waiting for you to give them a scratch or and it opens your heart. You really want to reach out. You want to pet the dog. Or with cats, they behave a little bit differently, but cats also have a way of showing their gratitude for a petting. They purr and they stroke and they roll, and it opens your heart. It makes you happy. Some people remember something in nature that they saw that was very touching to the heart. And so they have a visual of something in nature. Maybe some people have a visual of a person that they really cared about, who smiled at them, who opened their hearts. So part of the practice is going to be finding that trigger, that key that allows you to remember a heart-opening experience, and key in on that experience when you start the meditation. So it'll be remembering the experience and then wishing yourself the happiness. May I be happy, having that feeling. May I be free from suffering and pain. May I be safe. May I be joyful. May I be comfortable. So these are little phrases that are used to bring up that feeling. I had a student that he could bring up that feeling when he thought about his puppies. When he remembered the puppies, that feeling came into his heart. And then with that memory, he was able to transmit that to himself. So for the first 10 minutes of the meditation, we're going to be giving ourselves loving kindness. And when that feeling disappears, and then when the mind wanders, then bring up the little trigger, and then give yourself the wishes again. And it doesn't have to be mechanical. You really do want to wish yourself well. You want to feel that feeling in your heart, and you want to keep that feeling going as long as it will go, and then you'll hit a hindrance. The hindrance will knock you off the feeling, and I will go over how we deal with that with the 6 R's. Then, so the essence is to feel the feeling of metta and keep it going for yourself for 10 minutes. Then when you finish with the approximately 10 minutes for yourself, then you radiate that feeling to a spiritual friend. And it is somebody who is of the same sex and who is alive, and somebody who you truly like and you want them to do well and be happy. And someone you admire. And so then, as I am happy, I want you to be happy. I want you to be free from suffering. So the wishes then go to the spiritual friend, and have the spiritual friend in your heart radiating that to the spiritual friend. So in the beginning, and even in the middle, and sometimes even in the end, we can't keep our minds on that feeling for very long. So we have to use mindfulness to bring us back, the mindfulness of the loving kindness, to bring us back to that feeling again. The mindfulness is watching how the mind starts to stray off of your feeling of metta. How does the mind's awareness move from object to object? The first one is, how does it skip out from my object of loving kindness, and all of a sudden I'm in a memory of my vacation? How did that happen? So you have the mindfulness, then you have the collectedness, and in order to bring those together, you have right effort. And that's the other third part of the meditative path. And the Buddhist description of right effort, in short, is that you keep unwholesome mind states at bay, but if an unwholesome mind state comes up, and this is going to be the hindrances that we're going to talk about tomorrow, then you let go of your attention on the unwholesome mind state, and you bring up a wholesome mind state. Well, what's going to be our wholesome mind state? The loving kindness, the metta. So you bring up a wholesome mind state and keep it going as long as you can. Bhante Vimalaramsi expounded on that short right effort, and he developed the 6 R's. So what I'd like you to do is look in your folder, and we have a sheet that is very bold, that has the 6 R's. It says a pocket fold-up card for the 6 R's. Got that one? Okay, everybody have your. It's kind of on the 3rd or 4th page from the beginning. Okay, you have it? Okay, so again, using the right effort, your attention is on the feeling of loving kindness in your heart, and all of a sudden you realize that, as I said, you're reviewing the vacation that you had last week or last month or some other time, or you're going through the list of things you have to do when you get home, or any other thing other than the loving kindness in your heart. So you recognize that, oh, I'm not on my object of meditation. And you release your attention on it, and you do it just very softly, like let it be there all by itself. I don't have to pay attention. Another thing is sometimes you hear sounds, and in the beginning the sounds will take you away, and maybe you start wondering what sound is that, or you start thinking, oh, that's really an intrusion. I hate that sound. It used to be that in a meditation hall, when it was very quiet, you'd hear a clock going tick-tock, 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 and people would get really upset about the tick-tocking clock. So it's things like that can take you away from your object of meditation. And when you're taken away from your object of meditation, there tends to be some tension and tightness that occurs in your mind and also in your body. So you recognize it, you release that attention, bring it back, but when you're bringing it back, before anything else, you relax the tension and tightness. So here I am sitting, I'm on my object of meditation, and I hear the clock ticking, and I get, that clock is ticking again. So there's tension and tightness. Okay. I release any tension or tightness in the head, in the body, and I smile, I re-smile. So smiling is a sine qua non of the tranquil wisdom insight meditation. It's a very, very important part of it. Why is it an important part? Because smiling brings up joy. And why do we want to bring up joy? Joy is one of the factors of enlightenment. So I'll get back to that again, but smiling, if there's nothing else that you do during the first day, keep reminding yourself to smile. Because with joy, everything becomes easier. And joy brings you lightness into your mind. So your mind isn't heavy. And there's happiness. So you want to continue because you're happy. All right. So then you re-smile. After that, after the relaxation and then the re-smiling, you go back to your loving kindness. And again, get the little trigger going of the loving kindness. And oftentimes it's just the different loving thoughts to yourself or to your spiritual friend that'll keep generating it. Keep generating that loving kindness. So I'm not going to go too much further, but the one last thing I do want to say is about this before we go on to a short thing about walking meditation, is that was the genius of Bhante's 6 R's. Because when you do the 6 R's, when you do the 6 R's, you're developing the 7 factors of enlightenment. So why do we care if we're developing the 7 factors of enlightenment? We care because the 7 factors of enlightenment, when fully developed and balanced, lead you to nibbana, to the cessation. So every time that you're doing your round of the 6 R's, you're deepening your practice and your understanding of the 7 factors of enlightenment. And I will just review those here because you'll hear about them again. But it's mindfulness, our mindfulness on the object, on metta, and our mindfulness to watch how the mind's attention tends to roam off the object. And then we investigate that. Oh, how did that happen? I want to bring it back. I want to bring my mindfulness back. I want to bring my attention back to the object of meditation. So when we investigate that. And the investigation brings up energy. We develop more energy for the practice. And energy leads to joy. So the Buddha has a little smile on his face when he's meditating. That's because when the joy is present, the enlightenment factors can be balanced. And then with the relaxation, we bring up tranquility. So relaxing the mind, relaxing the body, that's the tranquilizing factor, which leads to being able to keep our attention on the object for longer and longer periods of time. And by doing that, we also develop equanimity. So the 6 R's, it's brilliant. What can I say? So that's that part. Now, there's a short instruction on the walking meditation. in the TWIM practice, when we start with metta, we want to keep the metta going 24 hours a day if we can. Keep remembering to keep it going 24 hours. When we're walking, we walk at a normal pace and we keep the metta going at the walking meditation. For some people it's quite difficult because the eyes are open. In sitting, your eyes are closed. So you start looking at things and, oh, isn't that a beautiful flower? And look at those butterflies, aren't they great? And I wonder what those ants are doing. And so it'll take you away from your feeling of metta. But then keep bringing it back. Keep your eyes about 8 feet in front of you and try not to look at nature. One of the things about doing meditation is you really fall in love with nature. You really notice, your awareness is sharper and you notice things in nature. And if you're a nature lover, you just want to run away with it. I know because I've been there a lot. Looking at flowers, looking at butterflies, looking at the sun, looking at this, looking at that. So, but if you can really discipline yourself to stay with your object of meditation, stay with the metta, when you're walking, when you're brushing your teeth, when you're eating, if you're eating, try to remind yourself to stay with that feeling of metta. Then you're going to keep priming the pump. You know, it's like in the old movies where you had the Model T Ford and they were having to really crank it up to a certain speed, and then all of a sudden the car started to catch on and the engine started revving up. Anybody not see any of those old movies and don't know what I'm talking about? Anyway, so in the beginning we're doing the cranking. It's effortful. But at some point it gets less and less effortful and the engine starts to run by itself. And the meditation will start to meditate on its own. It's really quite uncanny how that happens and how beautiful it is when you really start to get engaged in the flow of the meditation. We'll share merit, yeah. Okay, and sharing merit, you do have one of those in your, it's near the end of your packet, or we also have it up here. But if you want to look at, it's the very last one in your packet. So, may suffering ones be suffering free and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief and may all beings find relief. May all beings share the merit we have just acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.